Hello and welcome to the Wonder Year podcast with me, Paddy Raff, joined as ever for the intro anyway. In this, you kind of move over there for the rest of it, don't you? It's Riggsy, producer and co-host Riggsy. And it's 1984 is the Wonder Year we're discussing this year, and our guest is my sister, Claire Rafferty. Although give her, look, in her own right, she's an actress, she's very, very funny, very talented, and I should stop introducing her as my sister because I'm sure that'd get annoying. Paddy Raff's sister.
Somebody did pull you in that once, didn't they?
Oh no, it was Claire. I said to Holly Hamilton that Holly, who's married to Connor Phillips, who's a radio presenter from here, TV presenter, Claire went to uni with him and was really good mates through uni, and then he met her after a few years after getting their vaccines, funny enough, over at the SSE. I was like, oh, there's Claire. And he says, this is my wife, Holly. Oh, I know Holly. He says, this is Claire Rafferty, Paddy Raff's sister. She was like, I've known you for years. You're introduced me as, so yeah.
I can understand how that would happen. You know, fair enough, Paddy Raff's sister, but genuinely, she has notoriety of her own.
Yeah, she was in Derry Girls and a lot of other things. She's actually, by the time this goes out, I'll not give too many details away, but she got a really good one with a certain celebrity. I'm caught between a heart to say who it is that she's working with. I'll leave it and I'll maybe add it in at some stage.
Can you tell me and we'll bleep it out and then I'll give a reaction?
It's a fairly big name. She's doing a film with...
Okay, so we've bleeped out the name. Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah.
And
we'll have her back on because Claire's such a good guest. That's kind of why we did this.
Selected by that person?
Yeah.
Asked for specifically? Is that person involved with the movie?
Yeah, I'll give you the details. We'll definitely talk about this more in future about how it all came about.
That's big though.
Because Claire was in for my episode. Anybody that listened to the sort of episode 0, which was my Wonder Year. The OGs, yeah. You'll remember Claire from then, and everybody loved her and she was great crack, and we just thought we got to get her back in because we're always going to get her in anyway to do her own Wonder Year. So she talks about 1994, a lot of fun memories from back then. Yet again, I'm getting exposed as being a complete dweeb.
Yeah.
But you know, that's par for the course. That's just my life. And before we get into that episode, we have to talk about, of course, Victoria Square, who are the sponsors of this podcast.
Well, it's just whenever Claire's movie whenever that movie comes out, I mean, the first place that I'll go to watch it will be Victoria Square. I'll probably make a day of it. I'll probably spend the entire day there.
That'll be where the premiere is, our unofficial premiere.
Yeah, we all could get together and, we'll go shopping first of all. Then we'll go to our favourite eateries.
Shelter from the rain is always a good thing to do.
Do you ever try and go to the toilet at Victoria Square? Toilets are
good toilets, yeah.
But they are. It does they're like several hundred miles away from the shops for some reason.
They're at the entrances, though. It's at the 4 entrances, so it means if you kind of go into the centre, then because it's so big, you have to kind of go out. But they're there at the bottom of the steps.
Okay. We've plugged Victoria Square so much, we've now got to the point that we're telling people where the toilets are.
We'll do a toilet. We're going to do a live podcast from the Victoria Square toilets just to talk about them in detail. Nice mosaic, sort of tiling on the way in. We'll get into that.
It's just a better class of shittery.
Good place to shit is Victoria Square. I think that's their slogan, their new slogan. I've revealed it too early.
You need to get some new material about Victoria Square. Genuinely, I love whenever Victoria Square came to Belfast. I remember getting stick from a very cynical friend of mine because I was so excited, and they were just like, "It's just a shopping centre. Would you give over?" That's going on. Oh, but it's got. And then I named 3 or 4 shops that I was really into Urban Outfitters at that point, but all my clothes in Urban Outfitters, and I was so excited that there was going to be an Urban Outfitters in Belfast, and I was so excited about all the restaurants. I really was like genuinely beside myself, and I just remember it's a mutual friend of ours. I'll not name him, but he is a grumpy bastard, and he gave me so much stick. But I remain as excited about Victoria Square now as I was.
It's a big boost for you. This partnership, this collab has been.
Yeah, I'm genuinely. I just think it's really cool. But I didn't really expect to be talking about the toilets and why it's a good place to go and do a poo. But it is.
Here we are. Well, let's get into the episode then. There's not much talk of, unfortunately, in 1994, Victoria Square hadn't even.
It was a dark time.
It wasn't even Riggsy, he was just waiting.
I basically go pre-Victoria Square and after.
Pre-VS.
Yeah, people talk about AD.
AD and B. Yep. There we go. So this week's episode is with my sister, Claire. Well, no, sorry, with actress Claire Rafferty, and her Wonder Year is 1994. The Wonder Year. The Wonder Year. So why did you choose 1994? What was the
94? I just remember, obviously, perfect summer with weather, World Cup, all of that. Just the music as well. It was like, I kind of felt like I discovered, my groove of music. I already had take that in the back pocket, and I was ready to explore. So like loads of dance music and stuff, and I just remember it as being like, you have like one seminal like kind of summer, and that's definitely the one. And also, I just kind of moved into secondary school. So it was just kind of seminal, coming of age, all that. Yeah.
And so you're saying, like, we were talking about the music, weren't we, Riggsy, about like it is a pretty good year for music. I feel like there's a lot of overlap between like sort of good bands doing good things then, but then new stuff coming along as well. And we'll get into the music in a wee bit. Yes. But so tell us, what were you like at that time? I know now, but I'm asking you to tell the people and be truthful, because
I will be truthful. The thing is, I was like
stage kid.
Say if you're like stage kid at home, in school, way out of my depth. Like
unlucky for us at home.
Exactly. Like I expressed myself in the living room, but like if you think about school, you always saw one person. So it would be first year, second year was 94. You also saw a kid that was like a blazer, like oversized blazer, massive backpack with all their books, and like fringe, couldn't see. I was that person, And
were you one of the kids that didn't put any of your books in your locker? You carried every single book in your bag.
The locker was not for me.
Give yourself scoliosis so you didn't have to go to your locker.
I don't know why, but it was just, I thought like I want a big school. I was a very young 12-year-old in all respects. But so I was real nerd in school. Really nerdy and just always trying, like to make an impact. But when I got home, I was able to I was always like putting on plays, making up dance routines, maybe doing a spot of dancing. It was also the street where I performed. I used to like get people to come around. I remember making a puppet show, selling tickets and all, and people came around the back to watch my puppet show.
Did we talk about the time, it probably would have been 94, where you duped me into being in your Abba Tribute band? Did we mention that in my one?
No, we
Can't
didn't.
remember. Did we, Riggsy? Can you remember?
We did mention it in a different podcast, I believe. We mentioned it, I think, whenever you were chatting to Emer, perhaps.
Okay,
but, yeah. So
I'll briefly tell it, where you basically, through the course of a summer, had planned to do an Abba Tribute.
My whole life.
Yeah, it was an Abba Tribute band you wanted
Abba
to set up,
band,
and I reluctantly, I wouldn't be in it, and then...
Well, no, it wasn't even that you wouldn't be in it. It was like, I hadn't even asked you, but I was like, he'll never go for it. So instead of asking you, like, just want to be in this Abba Tribute, I decided to draw up a contract. Said you had to be in it, and then fold it about 6 times, leave a wee bit of a wee slip, and say, "Hey, Patrick, can you show me your signature?" And you were like, "What? What's a signature?" Like,
no, you're even more like sort of like the way that you wrote me into it was more sort of cerebral than that. You basically opened with, "I bet you can't even do a signature."
Oh my God,
and I was like, "Yeah, I can." And I instantly was like, "I have to do it." He's like, "Yeah, I can do my signature." Yeah, and she's like, "No, you can't." Like, yeah, and then, by the time then I wanted to sign this bit of paper, like, "Go do it on that," and I was totally oblivious to the fact that this had been folded 6 times.
It was in pencil as well,
and then you unfolded it.
It was. I can just remember going, you're part of an Abba Tribute. And it was like, you just couldn't even work out what had just happened. It'd take you 10 minutes to do your signature, and all of a sudden, now you're in.
My
like,
world had crumbled.
Yeah, I can remember running up the stairs, and you were like, Mommy, she made me. And I was like, wait a minute, there is a reason. And like, it was not like, usually I got away with things, but I remember Mummy just going, you do not do that. That's fraud.
But she made me be in the band, so like Mummy was fairly litigious. She obviously contract's a contract, Patrick,
You're both looking at me like I'm gonna sort of mediate the situation.
Do you think she was in the wrong, Riggsy? Do you think that she was in the wrong to force me to be in an Abba Tribute band against my will?
Well, I've heard of people being forced to do things against their will that are worse than having to sing ABBA songs. In fairness, so I don't want to make light of that.
There was footage of that. Like you had the classic, got Mummy's eyebrow pencil and drew on like a moustache and a beard.
Yeah, that's right.
And had like a kind of like really itchy tweed tie.
Yeah,
and was just like
there is footage of this as well. I'm definitely going to dig out the footage.
I would like to propose. I think that Paddy, this is a bit of a plot twist. I think Paddy knew all along exactly what he was signing up to.
My remembrance
and he
was that
he didn't.
It was
he
if I
wanted
was
to be in an
creative
Abba tribute
director of
band.
it.
Oh no, I'm in an Abba tribute
Well, the
band.
thing is,
Oh no,
do you know
I'm
my
terribly gutted about this.
genuine-
I've been rumbled all these years later.
My genuine memory is that, yes, after the whole hoo-ha of the signature gate, and it was all like, how dare you, mummy, that's fraud. And I was like, But I remember you going, oh, I wouldn't mind, I'd do it anyway. And I was like, that was so easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Get that tie on, get mummy's eyebrow pencil.
But by the time it came to it, it was because you were like creative director and we had to do these, and you were like, make sure you jump about the way they do. And I just looked like I didn't want to be doing it. It was like non-consensual. Like you're talking about people being forced. I did not want to be doing it, and you could see then because it was like I had to bounce about, and
Listen,
there was about 10 people turned up to watch it in the back
yeah,
garden.
I mean, there's interviews and putting on our best
Putting on Swedish
accent. And I remember like going, where are you touring? And like, could I think of anywhere other than Belfast and Dublin? Yeah, Belfast and Dublin. And they're like, anywhere else? And I was like, Belfast and Dublin.
Trotted it.
Yeah, it was like, couldn't think. Yeah, so
What
that's a
songs did you
snapshot.
do?
Mamma Mia. Did we do the Stars on 45 medley?
Yeah,
I
we
think it
actually
was.
didn't even do real.
Do you remember
ABBA.
that Stars on 45 was something like it was 70s and 80s, but there was an ABBA medley.
Yeah.
That still, if you're at Kristen's in like West Belfast, there'll be a
Might whip
DJ
it
will
out.
still break out the ABBA Stars on 45 medley.
It was that. I mean, I was in
To the
my
point where
element.
do you remember the intro that the stars on 45
Yeah.
keep on burning on your mind?
Yeah.
It was like a real disco thing. I thought that was ABBA's song. I was like, I don't remember ABBA singing this song.
Yeah.
Stars, like, no, that's
Yeah.
the group that are doing
This
this.
is somebody who didn't want to be in a tribute.
Yeah, it
band.
reminds me,
He
you know
knows
in
a lot.
South Park?
It's like he's really into it.
South Park, whenever they knock on Token, and it's called Token because he's like the token black guy, and they go, oh, we're starting a band, can you get your bass? And he's going, I don't have a bass. He goes, no, you do. Of course you've got a bass. Go down to your basement. And he goes down, oh, I found a bass. And he goes, right, play it. He goes, I can't play it. I don't know how to play a bass. He goes, of course you can, play the bass. And he just goes, ding, ding, ding. He just plays it absolutely
just come
perfectly.
naturally there.
I can imagine you going, I don't know any of these songs, and they're just absolutely, yeah.
And you was like, no, hold on, I'll do the middle harmony. How long?
Like, that was a time in my life that I was genuinely so happy.
Could have been 94 then, roughly
Yeah.
about then.
Yeah, that they were good years. That
Hit us with some of the music from 94 because it was really. It was
Well, I
really
don't really know where to
different.
start. I don't want to. There's so much incredible music that it
It's
feels
so
almost, disrespectful to bring that up. Having just talked about what we've just talked about,
Yeah.
but so it's the start of Britpop. You got Definitely Maybe and Blur Parklife.
yeah,
I mean,
just
my goodness,
so good.
that's what a place
That
to
was the
start.
chart show. Like, that was where my first introduction to Blur. Remember in chart show on Saturday morning?
ITV.
Did you fancy Damon, or were you too
Oh,
young?
yeah. No, I did. Like, I was probably where I was just like, what is this sound? Who is this guy? And I just loved the zip. The zip.
Zip up.
the
I'm
zip up.
raging. I'm only finding this stuff out now. I love Dave. Not you fancy.
Oh, I know.
You fancy
I-
Damon
and I had to
Albarn,
keep.
but it's
Yeah, you had to keep
Eamon
that.
Allborn.
Damon, I said.
He said
Eamon.
Eamon.
Anybody
You know
care to
Eamon
remind-
Albarn.
Anybody cares to rewind that, they will clearly hear me say Damon. All right.
Eamon Allbarn.
Eamon Albarn.
From Maherfeld.
It's like that's a tribute act. And you've also got the Nirvana Unplugged record, Green Dead Dookie, Jeff Buckley Grace, Nas Ilmatic, The Second Coming by Stone Roses, and then you got the likes of Beck, Loser, Beastie Boys, Sabotage. It sort of feels like all the best music in the world was released in
brilliant.
1994.
It was such a crossover, as you
I
say.
remember,
or
so that was
like a-
94, so I went to secondary school then the year after that,
After.
95, and I remember all those albums. Were brilliant album covers, which I don't really think that it kind of was a big thing. You had to
Yeah.
stand out with your album cover. And I remember there was a wee fella in my class who just loved all the proper good music, and he was brilliant at art, and he used to draw all those album covers on. Do you remember the canvas?
Oh, school bags?
Over the shoulder
Yeah.
bag.
Like duffel
duffel
type,
kind of,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And he used to draw them on us. But the Green
Yeah.
Day Doogie one was the most iconic one, the big bubble letters. But he used to
Yeah.
draw, and then I was like, draw them in my bag, and he would draw one for me. And I'd never heard the album. I had to pretend that I'd heard, the Beck album.
I remember
No.
getting the duffel bag, because when you talk about getting things wrong, asking for a duffel bag for Christmas was in first year, and then I taking out Durex and doing a take that sign and walking in being like, yeah, and they're like, get out, and I was like, no problem, as you were. Yeah, I was like, let's try harder. Yeah, I just thought I want to be like everybody.
Biggest song of the year, though, none of those. Love Is All Around, Wet, 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 was number one for
Forever.
15 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was
Remember
was that in 4 weddings? Why?
Yes, it
Yes.
was. That's why it was so
So
well.
it turned double down.
But I always remember thinking I never knew that was a cover until quite
yeah,
recent. Well,
yeah.
not quite recently, but years after it had been
Yeah.
out. Did the Trogs get a lot of coin for that. I wonder.
you would like to think
royalties.
so, yeah.
They must have been
Must have.
raking it in. That was huge. 15
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah, it was covered by R.E.M. and then covered by my first band before Wet Wet Wet
Oh,
released
right.
it. How gutted were we?
Yeah.
Because
You were onto something?
everyone just thought we were covering. Oh, you're just covering that song that's number one because
Yeah.
everyone else is playing it.
Oh,
No,
ages.
we've been doing it for
Because it's
ages.
the Trogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you covered it as the Trogs version? You didn't
Yeah.
do all the kind of like. I would imagine that would have been hard.
I
Bit
think
of
you're
offbeat.
very much misunderstanding the level of musicianality in my first band.
Yeah, you did it
was
straight.
It was very, very
If we
straight.
could have, we would have.
Because it was a very straight song. Saturday Night Wakefield.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dee-dee-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Stay Another Day, he's 17. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So good.
Baby Come Back, Pat O'Banton. Oof.
Oh, that was
Tune.
so good.
Dupe.
Dip by dip.
Dupe by dupe.
Yeah.
Dip.
That was a big chart. The chart show that was on that. I remember that. But I remember the chart show was infuriating because when
Fast forward?
so it would play start playing a song. You're like yes, and then the wee thing would come up and say fast forward.
And you were like,
Stop.
no.
It was a bit like somebody else has the remote for it,
Yeah, it was
but you didn't know who
right.
the hell had it. It's like please stop.
Yeah, it
And then
was
there's also the pause and go to the break, and then it'll come back at the end of the tune. You're like no, you paused that, and now it's the end of the song.
Cotton
Still
Eye
have
Joe.
grapes. Oh, brilliant
Yeah.
tune. Do you remember Rednecks on Live and Kicking was big back then? Like
Yeah.
we used to watch it every Saturday morning, and I remember the Rednecks were on. Cotton Eye Joe was really big, and I specifically remember them. They must have been off their heads, or they'd been gigging the night before or something. They were all wrecked.
Just rednecks.
And I remember the guy. I thought he was being unironic, but he must have been ironic, like saying he says, "Yeah, I think we're going to be bigger than the Beatles." And I just remember just going, "Oh, you dick."
Do you not remember?
I-
I remember Rednecks, obviously, Cotton Eye Joe, huge. And then they brought their
So
follow
their
up.
next one was exactly the same.
It was, and you're like,
It was called Pop an Old Oak,
Pop
right?
an Old Oak.
And it sounded exactly like
you're just
Cotton
like,
Eye Joe.
here,
Pop an Old
like
Oak,
literally, like
I think Wakefield did something similar. I don't think it was
Friday night.
I don't think it was literally Friday night, but it was it was Saturday afternoon.
Sunday night, I feel the air is getting cooler.
yeah.
Not ideal, but what a year for music. Realistically, how many of those bands, the cooler end of those bands, would you have been into?
Probably like Beck. I remember Beck came out. I mean, the thing is, even though I was a nerd, I didn't realize I did like some really good music, but obviously, as you know, loved Abba and take that. But like Prodigy, I remember getting Dance 93 for Christmas, and like Outer Space was on it, and The Shame. Like I was mad into like even the dance stuff as well. So yeah, I mean,
Prodigy Jilted Generation come out in '94. I mean, another absolute
yeah.
complete classic.
Yeah, it was just such a good, just such a good year for music, and just that thing of like being out in the street and all that music constantly being around, like Radio 1 and.
I think that was when
amazing.
it became the first time I remember anyway, where what band you like kind of defined you, and there was always a sort of an antithesis to whatever band you like. So if you were Blur, then it was Blur versus Oasis. If you were Take That, it was Take That versus E17. There was always a slight sort of underdog.
Yeah, which I was such a sensitive wee soul. I hated, any conflict. So like I used to hate if I had to like one, but you can't
Pick
like
one or the
E17
other.
and be like, but secretly I really love them all. And it's like
Can't we all just get along?
yeah, like totally. It was, and of course, because you had obviously football rivalry in our street as well, which is a big thing. And I would just be like, because I just wanted everybody to have the bands.
Where did E17 go wrong? Take That still.
When your man
an
reversed over
arena.
himself.
Yeah.
Well, that was a bad start. But
Yeah.
the E17, sorry, Take That still playing arenas. E17, I know for a fact, have rocked up to tiny venues on this island with a bag of cans and played to like 10 people.
Yeah.
I know. I feel sorry when I see
Some
that.
of their
I've
songs
seen
were
like
amazing.
Yeah, when you
Yeah,
like,
where did they go wrong?
beat
Why did
that-
they fall off a cliff?
being around the world in 1984, that was such a tune. When you look back at it, they did have, and they were brilliant. Like, there was your man Tony Mortimer that wrote a lot of the stuff, and like Stay Another Day being about his brother dying of cancer and all, like really good, quality music. But I think that that sort of thing
Were they not like enjoying themselves probably too much? I can't imagine Guy
yeah.
Barlow was like
party animal. Don't
Yeah.
think. I think it did Take That were done a favour by Robbie Williams leaving and then them finishing when they did,
Yeah.
because that was like a 3-year period that had done so much. And then by the time they came back in like 2008, because where somebody else did, I think their year was 2008, and they came back, it was like people were kind of ready for it then, but I think E17 never officially broke up. They kind of just tried to keep going.
You take that to biographer or something?
Just because it was in another podcast that it was in that year, 2008, and that was when we started our cover band, and I found the footage of it, and we covered like 2 of their songs from that, comeback album.
See, when you're saying all around or being around the world or by E17, like that's just brought back a really strong memory. So obviously it is 1994.
Great, tell us.
Sitting, so we're all sitting in Mairead, who is from that video, on a Saturday. They had a subscription, her and her brother, to Smash Hits and Shoot, and we'll go down and get it. I think you were there as well. We're all sitting, like us reading Smash Hits, Shoot, and then obviously swapping over, and it was like in this tiny bedroom, and everybody just buzzing off the music and like cutting out posters. Remember, like, because Liam O'Neill was Liverpool, so he had like Jason McAteer and like the green and white away Liverpool, and then me and Mairead were like Andrei Kanchelskis, and then like talking about
Andrei Kanchelskis, my favourite.
My favourite. Oh my god!
Like, why is it? Why do we all love Andrei Kanchelskis? It's like obscure.
He was a wee enigma. Like, he never gave interviews because he could hardly speak English and all. And the first time we'd ever been on a plane was 1985 to go and see Man United playing Blackburn. It was Cantona's first game back after he'd kung fu kicked the shit out of that fella. He was the first person. The first person to kick racism out of football. Yeah. But he was Andrei Kanchelskis came on as a sub, and where we were sitting was close to the dugout, and I just remember him running past, and like he was like massaging his thighs, and he did his massive thighs, and I'd never seen thighs.
Was
that
he handsome? I don't remember him being particularly handsome.
Decent looking.
See, like, when it came to football, it was just purest for me. It was nothing to do with what they looked like. I was
because the handsomest around that time, you had Russell Beardsmore and Clayton Blackmore.
But it was all about the acumen and the prowess of the football. Like that was that. I mean, I was mad.
You big in your football, yeah.
In the football.
Do you remember on the plane on the way over though, on the flight, you thought your hand was going to explode, your circulation?
It was my first time on a plane, and on the way up, I was like, my hand started to like tingle, and I was like, oh, maybe this is just like what happens when you're in a plane.
Like your ears popping, your hand.
I remember like the air stewardess coming down, because it was British Airways, and it was still when they give you like fucking sandwiches and whatever, and I was like, excuse me, my hand's tingling a wee bit, and she was like, right, okay. And then started getting really bad, and I was looking over, you two were sitting, and I was going, my hand's going, like, it was getting like seriously bad.
I remember the look in your face.
Called her again, she was like, are you okay? And I was like, there's something wrong with my hand. And she went, oh, your hair bubble is tight, too tight. And I was like, I was sure I was going to be some sort of stat, like, young girls' hands explode.
She died of plain hand, that old one.
And I was like, somebody help me. She's like, your hair bubble
wrapped around your wrist.
Hair bubble
I remember that.
But yeah, loved Andrei Kanchelskis. So like that moment of us all sitting, reading our magazines and cutting stuff out and all, and listening to probably Longwave.
That was the year 94 would have been the Come On Your Reds with Status Quo. Do you remember? Yeah. Come on your Reds, come on your Reds. Do you remember the team that went through? Schmeichel, Parker, Pallister, Irwin, so Bruce, Sharp and Ince, Hughes, McClure, Keane and Cantona, Robson, Kanchelskis and Giggs.
I'm not singing anymore, because the last time I was here, you took all the bits that totally scundered me and put them as your wee things. I was like, I'm wise to that.
You're wise to that now. You just be.
I know them and I'm not going to sing them.
Yeah, but then I was counting them, right, and that's 15 players.
That's why they're so good.
No wonder we're winning that year. They're 15 players outfield. Status Quo said so we had to put them out.
So good.
Other stuff from 1994, the start of the National Lottery.
I remember that bonus ball was 10. I just remember.
You really do remember?
Bonus ball was 10.
You worked for Camelot, Messiah?
No, but like I do remember the most specific and most random things.
It was Anthea Turner was on the big, she was the kind of face of it presenting then, but they made such a big deal about the National Lottery, being a thing, and it was it was a huge big deal. But do you remember it spawned, which for me is the perfect joke. I think it's it's like such a joke from here. Did you ever hear the one about the guy that wins? I'd love to know if there was a specific comedian told this, or was one of those jokes that just kind of gets on word of mouth. The one about the guy wins like 10 million. Have you heard this? Right?
No.
So It's one of my favourite jokes ever. The guy wins 10 million and he can't believe it, and he rings Camelot over the weekend and he gets the number and they check everything out, and the girl says, I'm pleased to tell you, you have won 10 million. He goes, I can't believe it. And he's crying. He's like, you've no idea how much I need this. I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. There's people after me and all. When can I have the money? It's like, well, look, it's the weekend, so, and it's actually bank holiday weekend, so the banks won't open until, say, Tuesday. By the time it goes in, we can't transfer you 10 million all in once, so it'll be 2.5 million will be in your account by next Friday. Then the following Friday there'll be another 2.5 million. And then at the end of the month, you'll come in and you'll get your big oversized check, and we'll do a thing, and we'll give you the other 5 million. So it'll probably take about, he says, no, what it is, see if you're going to be like that, just give me my fucking pound back. It's just the stupidity of it. Just give me my pound back. I can't be arsed with all that. Nah, I can't be arsed. Can't be arsed with it.
You already mentioned the World Cup in 1994, which was in USA. I'm proud to say I was there, which is incredible. I know. Ireland beat Italy. What are your memories of that?
So that game that day is etched in my mind. Like, I remember what I was wearing, what I ate for dinner, what I drank. It's just emblazoned.
Where did you watch the match? Did you just go to a pub?
No, in the house. I remember, like, it was the first game, obviously, and like, obviously you were really excited about the World Cup, but we'd not seen the game, and like, I was too young really to remember Italia 90. So we drove into the street, and like, every door was open, people milling about, people sitting outside, and up in our house, my dad stuck the speakers up, and the next thing all you hear is, the start of we're all part of Jackie's Army. Ray Houghton, 11th minute.
To lob the keeper from.
It was just amazing.
11th minute, because the reason why I remember the 11th minute is because we obviously just complete bedlam where we were, and everyone just completely lost the run of themselves. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at the clock whenever we actually sort of got back to our seats, and it was 19 minutes. Yeah. It could have been like 4 or 5, 6-1 or something. Do you know what I mean? But because we just had lost those 8 minutes just to complete bedlam. But I did get to see Paul McGrath that day. Which is, it was something from watching football. Also happened one other time watching a game where Paul Scholes was in and getting to see what they do that you don't really see in the camera. Mm-hmm. And I mean, people do talk about Paul McGrath's performance in that game, but seeing it was just, really something else. Mm-hmm. It was magic.
It's magic. Like, there's something about that. Like
Roberto Baggio in his back pocket.
Oh my God. And like, even Maldini, when everybody, like, obviously the Giant Stadium, you're saying, it's, in terms of the fans, you've got Little Italy, it's going to be packed.
Nonsense.
And the next thing, you just saw, it was like this, and the bold shape of the Giant Stadium, it was like this roar of the Irish fans, and it was just like the most, I can still feel the emotion now. Just, it was incredible. And I love that thing of, like, no matter where you live in the world or whatever, you can sit and chat to another person from home about that game and that day, and you're just buzzing about it. We were just obsessed. Like,
the opening ceremony of the World Cup, though, was Diana Ross. And I've definitely mentioned it before, where she missed the penalty, and the net still went as if she'd scored it. And it was only about 2 yards out to how she
that
missed
whole tournament. Like, remember, like, Alexi Lalas, remember the long hair? I used to be able to throw nearly the length of the pitch. He was amazing. Just those
and
memories.
Was that Maradona when he was...
Yes, Maradona when he lost his mind and was just celebrating right up to the camera.
High.
It was deemed to be...
the end, really, for him.
Yeah.
Do you remember after this, so obviously, the fever of the World Cup, and then you're just obsessed and stuff. So we had gone to Donegal for our holidays, and then obviously Packy Bonner was from Burtonport. So we went on a drive to find his house. Well, let's go, and just driving around Donegal. So we stopped at a petrol station, and my dad came out and he was like, apparently he's home and he's got Ray Houghton with him. We were like, we were in the back going mad. So anyway, found his house, went up, rapped the door, and his mummy came out.
Wee old woman. She's like, hello. Is Packy in? She was like, no, he's not home the next Friday, but like, would you like to come in? And we were like, so we went in, we were shaking. We're like, I was going, your son's so good. And he was so good the way he saves the ball.
Couldn't even speak. And she brought out these wee cards with a picture of him on it and wrote on the back, to Claire, love Packy's mum. And give it to us.
My God.
And like, I was just like, tell him how much we love him. She's like, I'll tell him, don't you worry.
She was so sad, I remember that. And it was one of those photographs, like, it was a professional photo shoot
Yeah.
he had done. It was black and white, and he standing on the
Umbro.
ball, and yeah, his Umbro, the
Yeah.
big gloves and all. And it was just lovely that she, you know,
Yeah.
really made of us. It was definitely.
I have to tell the story as well. I can't believe I didn't jump in because this is actually mental. My daughter, who's 2, and this would have happened about 6 months ago, maybe before she was 2. She had my phone, and I realised that she was on the phone to somebody, and I went over, and do you know who she was on the phone to?
Who?
Ray Houghton.
What?
How?
That is, I promise you, and he was talking to her. So basically, I spent about, I know, isn't it mental? I probably told the story in the wrong way. I should have built up to it and then said it was Ray Houghton, but I've started with the punchline, so now I have to reverse back. It's not quite as good. But so there was a sort of a year spell where I worked in the sports department at the BBC, and my phone, I have the backbone of a cracking five-a-side team. Yeah. Dennis Irwin, all the sort of you know, they're all working as pundits.
Yeah.
Like, see Mark Lawrenson.
Yeah.
Mark Lawrenson, with about 2 minutes' notice, you could ring him up, and he for whatever it is, 60 quid is disturbance fee. He would talk to us now for about 5 minutes. He doesn't care what the station is, what it is. Yep, no bother, because that's his job.
Yeah.
And then and Ray Houghton's part of that, and John Aldridge, all those guys. So I had all their numbers on my phone, and I still do, which is mental.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult for me because I used to have to ring them up to book them on to come on to my show to do a 10-minute talking about, you know, the international weekend coming up, whatever it was, like, you know, and it's just they do maybe, you know, a dozen of those a week, and that's their income. And then they'll do a bit of TV stuff, so it's not a big deal, and they give their number out to producers like myself, and we ring them up and book them. But it's very difficult for me to ring up these people knowing that they're absolute icons. Musicians I don't care about because I've done that my entire life. You know, but with these guys, so anyway, cut a long story short, Ray Houghton's number's on my phone, and Lottie used to she would just flick through the phone, random number, rang him up, and he answered.
No.
And she's going, just messing about. Yeah. What about that? You know, what about 9 minutes in? My dad told me. And then I picked up the phone and I just went, oh, sorry, but that's my daughter. Sorry, bye. I just hung up the phone because I was just so, but he was going, hello. And I think he knew what had happened.
Yeah.
It's probably like he hadn't saved my number, I would imagine. So it's an unknown number.
Did you have to pay him 60 quid for a disturbance fee?
Well, talking about disturbance, and it's making me think of a kind of meeting with a footballer that I was doing a play all over England, and we were playing in Liverpool, and we had these digs in Formby. So because it was really, I actually think they were free digs, and it's like gorgeous part, really far out of Liverpool. But we were there anyway, and on the way home the night before, the guy, our taxi driver, was like, "Get on Stevie Gerrard Street, yeah, he lives in number whatever," and we were like, I was like, really? So obviously a big United family. But the next day I was walking down the street and saw the number of the house that it was supposed to be, and I was just standing outside, and then I was like looking because there was like gates and going, I wonder if that is his house and all and whatever. So I was maybe could have been seen as skulking, but I was just looking. The next thing, this Range Rover flies round the corner.
You left out the bit where you took a picture of his gates and
I hadn't sent anything, but I was like casing it like
you looked like you were casing it.
What age were you?
No, I was an adult. I was in
sorry.
I'm working. I'm in my late 20s.
Gotcha.
So I was just kind of going, because we were all, I was going, is it? There's the gate and whatever. So starting anyway, and the next thing, this Range Rover flies around. And I just knew. I was like, I bet this is Steven Gerrard. And the thing went down, and it was Steven Gerrard. And I suddenly was like, what the fuck are you doing outside my house? And I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything. It was like, because I think he'd just been robbed.
He'd been burgled, yeah.
And so it looked like I was maybe up. I was like, I'm doing a play in the Everyman, and I'm actually got dicks. And it was one of those moments like where he was going, right, move out of it. And I was going, Steven Gerrard is shouting at me, and I'm just standing here going, you know, how have I got myself in this situation? So if you're listening to Steven Gerrard, I was not trying to kiss your house. And I think also he thought then I was some fan. I was like, I'm a United fan anyway. So
I am going to rob your house though, just because of this.
But you did take a picture of him though. Like, can I get a picture? Because I remember he was driving off and he looked a wee bit angry.
How the hell did you ask him for a picture?
No, I
after
don't
that?
think I asked him for a picture.
Maybe
but
of a different picture.
Yeah, I think like he thought, you know, I think that's where he was like, are you looking for a picture? And I was like, no, I'm a United fan. But like, it was just a whole host of wrong.
If you met Steven Gerrard or a Liverpool legend, would you hold a certain amount of resentment because they're Liverpool, or would you
listen, see anybody, especially from that era growing up, like I did love football. Obviously, I wouldn't have the same effect. I wouldn't hold it against them because you'd have to have some sort of respect. If I saw like Steve McManaman or something or Robbie Fowler, I'd be like,
yeah. I as a United fan now, like our house was all Man United, all our relatives and all were like they had that thing. Liverpool had been so big for so long before we were born. Really, we came along in the glory days of Man United, and that's all we ever knew. So whenever obviously Fergie went, things have been shit, and Liverpool started doing well. It was really hard to come to terms with. But Liverpool have been playing so good. I don't begrudge them. I still won't watch them. Don't enjoy it.
Essentially, I love football.
But I didn't, and then I've did a few gigs, did Glasgow, Manchester, and then Liverpool, and everybody kept saying you'll love Liverpool. And as a United fan of me, I kept going in the back of my mind, bet you won't. And then I arrived and I did. Like the people are so sound and they're really dead on, and the more you learn about the city and you go, I respect them so much more because
I've worked in Liverpool loads.
But it's that thing of the fact that like Thatcher wanted to literally run the place into the ground, and it was revealed like 30 years after they have the freedom of information or the secrets thing they reveal, and like she was putting the city into managed decline and all. She was, and you go, and watch it, the whole Hillsborough thing, the way the press treated all that, you kind of go, you can see why they had that spike about them with everybody else. It was like Liverpool against everyone else.
Like getting
still don't like the football team
with being an actor, and I've filmed in obviously Liverpool, and then one of the last places I filmed was near Manchester, and on the way over it was like a Sunday night or whatever, and I happened to be going past Old Trafford, and I'm chatting away to the driver, and I was like, oh my God, we're going past Old Trafford, and he's like, do you want to get out? And like I was like, yeah, so we just got out.
Do you want to get out?
Do you want to get out? And just like going, like I lived in London for 12 years, but getting to work over there so much because my first introduction to England was football. So and touring and stuff, and you just all roads kind of lead back to this age, and
Do you remember that in that 1984 time was whenever Sky was starting to cover the Premier League, and we didn't have Sky? I remember going into other people's houses that had Sky, having to
breaking into other people's houses.
Breaking into Steven Gerrard's house to watch Sky. Yeah. But like trying to be like, you had to kind of be on good terms with some kids that you didn't really like because they had Sky, and you might get in to watch football. But do you remember the story now? Our new uncle who listens to this quite a bit, you were saying about it before, I don't want to drop names, but our new uncle, it's really confusing you, but anyway, like he told us brilliant, I'm pretty sure it was him, told this class story about his mate who was one of the first to have Sky, right? And he told everybody he just moved into this new wee flat, and he was like, I've got Sky, and they were like, how did you get Sky? He's like, I've done a wee trick, come on round and you can all watch the match, so they come round this night, they watch the match, there were a few cans, they all came in, so they're chatting away, and then one of them's like, here, stick on the build up here on the TV. All right, 2 seconds. He lifts the Sky remote and walks out the front door, and they're like, where's he going? And he walks out, and they're like all chatting away, and he comes in like 20 seconds later, and the screen's changed over to the Sky Sports. And they were like, where did you go? He's like, he was like the first floor flats, he lived above a barber's, and he says, I've hooked into the barber's downstairs, they've got Sky. And he says, and they're like, why did you leave? He says, because the box is down there, and if I want to change the channel, I have to go down and put my hand in their letterbox and change the channel. And then they're all laughing, going, what are you like? He's like, free Sky, sure, you can't beat it.
Did the barber know about this then?
He says, well, no, the barber didn't know, this was all like secretive, he hooked into the dish or whatever, but the controlling box that chose the channel was in their shop. And he says, so here's this, so what do you do during the day, like whenever the barbers are in? He says, I just have to watch whatever they're watching. Watching Homes on
People used to do that loads back then in 94. We did that where you had you had TVs like hooked up for different rooms of the house because you had one Sky, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And Kevin Bridges does a bit about
your dad's watching
going to bed and waiting for his dad to turn on. The line is, he starts with a 9, couldn't hope for a better number than that to start with. But everybody has a story, and I absolutely remember a mate of mine watching or they're finding a dirty bit in the film and rewinding it back over and over and over again. Like, if you're trying to get it to freeze and the camera isn't shaking or the frames aren't shaking, to get a wee bit of, I don't know, it was maybe Basic Instinct or whatever, and then get into the kitchen and mum and dad are just watching this bit of a film over and over in a loop, and then just looking at me.
You had no explanation for that.
Yep.
slight tangent from that, but I worked for Sky for a while in a call center, training people how to do Sky setups, so that when people rang you then to set up their Sky or programming channels, you had to talk them through it, so this was like my job for a couple of years. And the stories you used to hear, and the best one, I was over in Dunfermline, which is the big call center for Sky, and they were saying about Steve McManaman, you were mentioning there, had just moved to Spain to play for Real. Did he go straight from Liverpool to Real? Yeah. And he just moved over, and so like Match of the Day or Grandstand might have still been on, did this whole big thing where Garth Crooks went over and was interviewing him in this big mansion that he owned. It was one of the first kind of English players to go over to Real in a long while anyway. And he was chatting to Steve McManaman, and you're not allowed Sky outside of the UK, even though you can pick up the signal. So that's when you go to Spain and stuff like that. If you see Sky, it's illegally done. They've got a box that's registered in the UK. It's very technical.
In a barber's and somebody's.
Yeah, in a barber. Yeah. You want to change the channel, you have to fly home.
Yeah, one of the letterbox. That's me away.
No, you got to ring somebody out.
Yeah. So basically anybody watching Sky, you're not allowed it in Spain. So Steve McManaman's sitting being interviewed by Garth Crooks, and he says, like, do you miss anything from back home? Like, do you not miss watching the Coronation Street? And Steve McManaman like, yeah, no, I've got a Sky box. I just, if I want to watch it, I've got all the stuff, all the channels from back home. I just stick on Sky. And says that the guys in the call center were all like, all the United fans like, yes, let's scramble it. And they went and they got it and they cut it off. Like the day that it went out, they were watching, fucking no chance he's watching that. Cut it off.
He's just supposed to watch like EastEnders.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Like pure shit.
Absolutely brilliant. Just the
So
pettiness.
good. Go Skybox.
Shall we go to Claire's birthday?
Yes. So you'll remember this from mine. It's my party. So this is what your party might have been like. Abba might have been performing at your party, our Abba group. Did we have a name for it? Because only Abba's the acronym of Agnetha, Benny, Bjorn. So what would it have been? It's all consonants.
Sounds like a consultancy firm.
Yeah, CPM.
No, I'm trying to think. So 12. No, I think probably would have had friends in from the street. So like Mairead and Liam, and then maybe somebody from school.
Maybe a couple of ones from school. Well, hit us with the top 10. Is that what we're going to do on the?
Yeah, I think because we'll do it in reverse order because the number one is just a home run.
On your birthday, this was number one.
On your birthday,
right?
Number 10, More to This World, Bad Boys Inc.
Bad Boys Inc.
Should point out that your birthday was in May. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bad Boys Inc. I remember them vaguely. They were like, they always had like the rivals for Take That, Boys and Bad Boys Inc.
Were Bad Boys Inc. UK or American?
I think they're UK, yeah.
Okay, so this is May 94. The Real Thing by Two Unlimited, I didn't realise they had a third hit.
Yeah.
Of course, we all know the Two Unlimited rumour that went around.
Oh, yeah, that she died in a car accident or
Why
a motorbike accident. Also, Gala Freed from Desire, that was another rumour. That was before the internet when rumours had legs.
Yeah. And now they're all coming back in these, nostalgia tours. You're like, I thought you were dead. Yeah. I thought you died.
Gala Freed from Desire, she's not dead.
So strange. It used to be before the internet at Glastonbury, somebody would start a rumour that would pick somebody. Like Terry Wogan's dead. Obviously, Terry Wogan is dead now, sadly. But back then, and no one could discount it because you were lost in Glastonbury.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So everyone, the year I was at Glastonbury in 97, 98, it was a year, I think it was Terry Wogan one year, and then somebody else really random, Cliff Richard or something, following you. Number 8, Just a Step from Heaven by Eternal.
Oh, yeah, brilliant, Eternal, brilliant.
Was this before, was Louise in Eternal from the start?
From the start, she was there for stay, and then she very quickly left.
She stayed and then she went, how ironic.
Number 7, Crash Test Dummies. What an unusual piece of music. But
I really like. I revisited that quite recently. Like I think over the lockdown.
I think good impressions, eh?
There was this girl. I actually did really stupid cover of it. I did a really stupid cover of it like years ago, and it like kind of sank without a trace. I was so proud of it, and it was like, once there was this girl who was in a Translake accident and couldn't go to school, but when phoned out claims for you, but when they came to assess her, they found fuck all was wrong with her body. It was just a bit of girl putting a fake claim.
Got a renaissance in this podcast. The Real Thing by Tony DeBart.
No, that was great. Yeah, love that tune.
Sweets for My Sweet by CJ Lewis.
Yeah. Was that a cover? I think that was a 60s cover.
Yeah.
Love Is All Around, Wet Wet Wet. Just, it was a number 4.
Still there?
Love Is Still
came
around.
out of the top
Yes.
It wasn't number one
No,
then.
I think it's maybe I think it
Going up the charts.
Strange.
Then.
Yeah, going up the charts. That's the way
in
the charts
days
works,
that
yeah.
They used to ascend.
Yeah.
number 3 around the world. He's 17. Number
Brilliant.
2 stilt skin inside because of
Oh
the
my God.
Levi's advert.
correct. Yes.
Yeah, do you remember that Levi's
This must
advert?
be underwater.
No, it wasn't.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
that. Yeah,
No, I'm
but
just thinking of all the
Levi's
other
Babylon
could
Zoo
do
was another
that.
one.
Yes, they could launch a career. That was that. I thought it was it was an instrumental in
Mr.
the
Bombastic.
advert, but then there were Bombastic was another one, but then there was lyrics to it. But yeah, great tune.
And
Great
then
riff.
number 1, May 1994.
Bring it.
You could probably guess.
May '94.
Although it doesn't really make... Oh, no, it would make sense to me. May 1994, Man United, come on you Reds.
Oh yeah, That's
On your birthday.
Brilliant. Yeah. We'll maintain the status quo. It's like
know,
it's
it's
not the bit.
it's like,
They had to get their name in there though,
Yeah.
didn't the status quo? It's like, how long? Let's get that in. But I
Oh my
always remember the
God.
video for that, like Dennis Irwin with his big Irish head on him, like not really
Dennis
really
Irwin,
able to get
free
into
kick-
it totally.
Free kick and penalty expert.
Yeah, free kick, free kick.
First name in the team sheet. Always gave you
Yeah.
8 out of 10. Never stole the glory.
Yeah.
Totally. That's him. Oh,
What a guy.
respect.
This has turned into like a punditry podcast for the a football punditry podcast, but for Nick.
United in this specific time.
But then like it was always like it was poignant because Busby died later that year.
Yeah.
And there's the line in that Busby babes, they always made me cry. Thinking we should just sing the whole song. That's it.
You can have a gift from an option of
I'm all
two big
excited.
break things. Sadly, once again, we should explain that we did plan to have these gifts.
Yeah.
And then we soon realised
Yeah. And
not
could
even
be ours.
budget just could not be ours.
It was just got
This
but the
cannot
thing
be
is,
ours.
then it allowed us to choose big ticket
We
items.
got that sign and just thought, right, we've got the sign. Just
Yeah.
leave it there.
Because if we had been getting them in, it would have been, do you want a push pop? Or, you know,
Yeah.
like something really cheap.
Just thinking, sign, was that 94? I saw the sign.
Yeah, that would have been.
That would have been 94. That
Yeah.
was
Ace of base,
1994.
I saw the sign.
Yes,
That's
it is,
incredible. What a tenuous, if entirely pointless link. Very
You
good,
know,
though.
that's not what this whole podcast is about. Pointless, tenuous links.
Correct.
That was the original name for it.
Yeah,
Pointless
pointless,
Tenuous
tenuous
Links.
links.
So your gift launched in 1994. You can either have the first Sony PlayStation and be the first person on your block to have one,
wow.
or you can have a PC with the internet. The internet was only invented in 1994 by that guy. What do you call him? Tim Berners-Lee. So the internet was
It was the web but the internet.
the World
as a
Wide
network,
Web.
Yeah.
Right.
So the World Wide Web, sorry to clarify, in 1994. So you can have now you get a Sony PlayStation and you probably get Parappa the Rapper and FIFA 94 and all of those, or you can get a Sony PlayStation or sorry a internet ready World Wide Web ready,
to
but
be
you've only got crappy websites.
Crappy websites, dial up, and actually just wouldn't have made sense to me then, you know, like what you could have done with it. Definitely a PlayStation.
Really?
Yeah,
You don't want
because-
access to the
Well, like
World
in
Wide Web?
1994, it hadn't taken off. It was available, but
There'd
like
be
I'd be the only
crap
person
all
on
on it,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You'd be in
Yeah.
chat rooms on your own.
Just one person.
talking
No.
stuff.
Do you remember? Oh, Jesus, I remember continuing on from the sort of, you know, bossy Claire vibe where Claire was 2 years older than me and she kind of like would always be, what are you up to? What are you doing? And we got our first PC and there was no internet on it for a good while. This probably would have been about 99. So I was like 14 or whatever, and it was up in the attic in my room, in my storage unit. And I used to draw on Microsoft Paint. Like that was my thing, because I'm quite into drawing and art. So I used to go on Microsoft Paint and I remember I drew something that was it was just like a real ugly old man's face, and I took
remember
ages
this.
doing it, right? You don't remember this?
No.
Right. So you were downstairs and Philip came up while I was, you know, drawing on this thing, and Philip saw it here and his reaction was, ew, what's that? And all I heard was you going running up because you thought there was going to be dirt or something, because I think we just got connected to the internet and you were always like, what are you looking at? What are you looking up? And as soon as he said, ew, what's that? All I hear was, and you popped your head up and I was like, it's just a drawing on Microsoft Paint. And you were
You're
like,
like a porn snitch.
Claire's like,
Well,
well,
like,
oh, you're lucky.
So
You're lucky.
when Patrick was really young, right, and I had heard that him and another wee boy had procured a box of Durex, right, and I obviously that you
Found a
knew it
box
was
of Durex
bad,
in his
like
dad's room,
right,
and we
so,
were like, we thought they were like water balloons or something.
yeah.
And then we went,
So
oh,
I
no,
was
hold on.
like, so obviously I knew about it. So this is from when Paddy was really young.
About 10,
I
not even.
held this over him, right? I used to
The
be
Durex? It's a bit harsh.
Yeah,
Literally
fact
held it over my head.
I would go
Suffocate?
anything he did wrong. I'd be
Yeah.
like, or I was like, well, I'll tell mummy and daddy about the condoms or whatever.
That was.
So then, do you remember? So we had a video camera, and it was like it was poised, and it was like me getting to just talk balls, right? Which I was in my element, but like Mr. Blobby was number one, Christmas number one, and I was up to high dough because it had knocked, take that off the chance and stuff, and it was a big deal for me. So it was me, mummy, and Patrick sitting there. And I'm going, talking about like the peace process and all, like such a wee dweeb, like whatever. So this camera's there. So I'm going, and I can't believe Mr. Blobby's number one. It's just this bit of plastic sitting folded somewhere in a studio. Like it doesn't even care. Like this. And Patrick's sitting against here. And I look around at his smug face and he's drinking. And I was like, and the week before, Patrick said, I actually quite like Babe, which was the Take That song. So I looked at him and I was like, well, actually, I've got something to say about Patrick, and he thought that I was about to out him and he had taken a drink of like red lemonade, and you just go, look at here, and I go, I've got something to say. I said, Patrick actually likes Babe, and he goes, I didn't, and like afterwards he was like, I thought you were going to, imagine if I did
I
that.
told you years later.
I thought you were going to say, all right, I've got the condoms. Just like, no, that's what I was going to say.
And I remember telling you years later, then watching the footage, I was like, look at my face here, and God, you see the moment of terror, and it was the big, remember Country Spring, like 15-litre bottles of red lemonade. I was sitting, I was like, well, I've got something to say about Patrick, and I was like,
if she turns around and goes, what? He's been running around with condoms. It's like, he's 7 years of age.
And then whenever you said, he actually likes the Take That song, he confessed, I was like, well, that's the lesser of two evils. And then I had to pretend like I was all offended shit, but I was just like, one thing.
Oh my God.
Why did you have the condoms?
We found them in my friend's dad's room, and he was like, we were messing about in his house. It was like one of those mates.
Like you probably knew they were just really bad. Like it was a few years I held this over you, so like you were young. But so I had heard from his sister, and I was like, they were fine. They were about condoms, and I was like, is that right? Oh, you're so dead.
I do feel partially responsible for the fact that they did have a wee baby brother the next year because we nicked their condom. You're only here because I nicked them?
Yeah.
No, they didn't. But yeah.
Oh my God.
I can't read. Fair play to you for remembering that. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Other great music in the charts around that time. The Streets of Philadelphia, Bruce Springsteen. It's a nice upbeat one to end a party.
I have to do this, right? Because I knew this one was coming up, that song, right? I've always said this and had to check it out last night. This is true. The Streets of Philadelphia, it sounds exactly like, the startup on a MacBook. When you turn your MacBook on. But here, this is it, right? So this is exactly how it sounds, right?
Yeah, that's the MacBook.
That's the MacBook, but every time it comes on, I go, I was bruising bad, I couldn't do what I felt. Obviously, and then just to prove it, this is the actual song then, because it is the exact same key, F. Oh, it's going to screw me about. No, it's not going to play it. Oh, well. You'll have to just use your imagination for that one.
Probably for the best, because they probably shut down our podcast copyright.
Oh, that's true, actually, yeah. Yeah.
Everything changes. Take That was there. I feel like we've discussed Take That.
Yes.
Oh, before we go on, this, it also is, was pointed out to me by my wife, it's also the same key as... It's been 7 hours and 15.
Again,
it's
copyright.
Also that. How many more can we get out of this?
Oh dear.
It's an F.
Set You Free, Entrance. You're the Best Thing. D-Ream, Dreams, Cranberries. Again, even the music on the Fringe. Like to Move It, Reel to Reel.
I got to see, so I went to see Take That in King's Hall, and D-Ream were supporting them. And I remember, first of all, Mummy said she was coming. So it was a year before. So Mummy was like, "I'm going with you. You're not going with your friends down in that moshy pit or whatever." And I was like, "Fuck's sake!" So I'm sitting in the back. So I remember going. Smash Hits had a thing where you took all the titles of Take That songs and made them into like some sort of rhyme. But it was really quite risque. So I was about 10, and I had all these. Mum was like, "What's on your banner?" And it was like, if you could give your love to me, I would be satisfied. But it was just all their names of other songs. She was like, "Where'd you get that from? Put that down." So anyway, me and Mum were sitting anyway. And D-Ream comes on, and obviously just loads of kids from Belfast or whatever, Northern Ireland, and obviously still Troubles, the end of the Troubles type thing. There's no kind of ceasefires. And he came out, and I remember at the beginning of things going to get better, and he was like, okay, everybody, put your hands in the air. Everybody, this is for peace, and I really hope we all get peace. And everybody was like going, thanks, Canon. And like, I can remember even as a 10-year-old, I was like, fair play to you, Peter.
Yeah.
Fair play to you, Peter. That was a good one. Now get her, Donald, on you. But yeah,
then that wasn't too long after that Labour used things only to get better.
I thought it was a few years
New
later.
Labour,
yeah,
97 that would have been.
But also the peace process. I mean, we've already covered in a previous podcast how Teresa Livingstone kickstarted the peace process with her song "Alone on Their Own at Christmas."
Christmas on Their Own.
So a couple of years later, obviously the peace processes had moved a bit forward. As a result of that, and the first ceasefires in Northern Ireland were in 1994.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That would have been Christmas. They because I remember specifically September, I talked about it on stage.
November.
Where when they did the Christmas, but do you remember they did the Christmas ceasefires?
Oh, they used to do that. Yeah, give
like
you 3 days.
Christmas,
get
3
your
days. Yeah, that was right. And I remember like coming in like Tiny Tim, like Father, there's ceasefires. It's complete cessation of all.
Let's go to Leisure World.
And like I remember him peeling the spuds, going like sort of we wouldn't get too excited.
Yeah, 3 days.
They'll be back kneecapping people before we're singing Low Lang Syne for fuck's sake, and they're like. But they said in space like you thought this was it. We've got
like, running around Leisure World going, can't touch me.
No, he's going to get shot. It's like so grim. But then do you remember...
Leaving your bulletproof vest at home.
Yeah. Do you remember though, I would have said... Do you remember like whenever they announced it was 3 days, like I always thought to myself, like that's so sus that it came over Christmas. You know what happened was the wives turned around and went, you think you're out running about playing toy soldiers over Christmas? You'll be helping me assemble them toys. Never mind. Call a ceasefire or something. Because it just felt too sus that over Christmas. And then
awful good of them. No.
Could you imagine them coming back after 3 days? Well, quiet Christmas. Quiet one myself. Grim.
So bad.
Movies we haven't talked about in 1994. It's just to rattle through some of the biggest movies, and you can tell us, Claire, whether any of these were a big deal for you at the time. All right, biggest film of the year, 4 wins. Lion King.
Lion King still holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Sorry, on Lion King, that was like. Do you remember we had? I don't know how we got this, but do you remember we ended up with a surround sound system in the house in the early days of surround sound? It's kind of like a knockoff.
Probably
Nuts
a room
Corner one.
about the size of this. Like definitely don't need surround sound. But it was like somebody came around the door selling them, and then suddenly there was speakers everywhere. Like a super woofer,
like this big subwoofer. Yeah, like this fella wrapped the door with sweating and panting. Do you want to buy a surround sound system? Quick, just want it, yes or no?
And
yes
it's
or
all
no?
like, Mummy, like, yep. No need for it.
We've got a surround sound system, and there's woo bastards. But we had this thing, and I think each one of the speakers was a different brand. That was a bit of a dead giveaway. One was Alba, one was Panasonic, but we had this thing, and the thing was that when you hooked it up, it took a wee minute to kick in, and you couldn't tell how loud up it was turned, and we never turned it up max because it was just too loud. This was industrial, this thing, and I remember coming down with Sarah. My sister, Sarah's like 6 years younger than me, and this was a big deal for her. You know, she's special needs, and she latches on to certain films, and she latched on to Lion King. She knew every single word.
She's 32 now, and she's
still does.
watching it.
But we came down, me and Sarah this morning, and stuck on the TV and went to watch the Lion King. And I'm sitting back in the seat, and I said to her, "Go press play or whatever." So she had a wee job to turn it on. She turns it on and sits back, and we're sitting there, and I'm watching, and then I hear the subwoofer go to start, and I was like, is the thing on? And Sarah had turned the knob up to full, and just as I realised, Sarah was sitting beside the TV, when I realised, it went, nah, and Sarah went, and ran towards me. But yeah, that was our film.
Great movie.
Miss Doubtfire, The Flintstones, Schindler's List, Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction.
Great films.
Yeah.
Although Pulp Fiction, we weren't allowed. We'd have been too young for Pulp Fiction at the time.
Of course you would have. I'd like to think so. Cool Runnings.
Good
Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
Naked Gun, the third Naked Gun. 23 and the third.
Great.
I'm declaring 1994 a triumph.
Yeah. Culturally, musically, everything. Have we anything else, Riggs? Any other things? The kids' questions.
The kids' questions is the end. I think we leave that the best to the end.
So these are, as you know, Ronan and Clara, my kids, have questions for you. We'll start with Clara's question.
Auntie Claire.
Oh no, that's Ronan. Hold on. We'll go Clara.
Auntie Claire, who did you want to marry back then?
Brilliant question. 1994 and Drake and Chelsea's.
Probably Andrew Kanchelskis, although I was just mad about Mark Owen and Robbie Williams, and it was just
Both of them?
But it was always like, who between those two?
Okay, and then this is from Ronan. Then this is his question.
Auntie Claire, did you want to be an actress back then? And also, why did you boss my daddy about that much?
Why did you boss my daddy about that much? Because you've answered the actress one, so why did you boss me about? It's like grilling you. Come on.
Yeah.
Does he boss his little sister about?
He does, and I've had to say that to Ronan then. I was like, Ronan, now, do you remember how, because he loves the Auntie Claire, the bossy Claire stories, as he called you? And like, whenever I say, oh, Claire would have said this, Claire would have did that, I might wait a few years before telling them the Durex story.
Oh he doesn't even know
wouldn't get it.
That I actually... Like, I actually blackmailed you for about 3 years. Like, I had you... Like, when I think about it now, that must have been terrifying for you, because I knew I was never, ever, ever going to do it. But I would go like... No, well, I'm going to tell Mummy and Daddy. We're like, okay, please don't tell them.
I had a sneaking suspicion that you would never even say it. You wouldn't even be able to say the words.
Wouldn't have the balls to,
but I didn't want to call your bluff on it. But I used to say to Ronan, because he's the same age gap, between him and Clara, and I'm like, don't be bossy, Ronan, and he hates whenever I say that. I'm like, shut up, don't be saying, well, don't then. But I think it was just that thing of the 2-year age gap.
I always wanted to be like older than what I was, like, and even like when I think of, say, mum, like, at our back, mum would always say, be talking to next door neighbours or whatever. It would always be like mummy's chat, and I would always be like skulking about and trying to join in, and they'll be like, oh, where you on, play, and then there was just thinking about, like, one day they were chatting away about something, and I was skulking about, and nobody was telling me to leave, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? And they were talking about skin cancer anyway. It was always something like really morbid. They were talking about, I don't know, she's dead and all, desperate and all. And skin cancer, and I was like, wait a minute. I was probably P6. Somebody in my class, I had heard that their auntie had skin cancer, so I was like, guys, yeah, actually, you're talking about skin cancer? Somebody in my class, their auntie had skin cancer, and Francine went, melanoma, and I was like, no, I'm not sure what you called her. I think it was Jacinta. I was like, melanoma's the name, and I was like, Mum was like, right, you get out. And I was like,
you screwed it up.
I messed it up. It was like melanoma Rooney. Like, it was just, so I was always trying to be older, and listen.
And now you are.
And now I'm older, and I'm still a dick.
All right. Well, thanks very much for coming in.
No worries.
Really enjoyed it. 1984. What a brilliant year. Let's all go back.
You.